April 16, 1945. 9,000 Soviet guns unleash a devastating bombardment against 700,000 German troops in the final battle of World War II in Europe. It's 0 hour for Adolf Hitler's Third Reich.
Berlin was covered in so much smoke. It was as if you were flying over hell, looking down into it.
In the path of the Soviet juggernaut lies Fortress Berlin, surrounded by a ring of men and steel. The city will bear witness to a battle of revenge unlike any in world history.
Our rage grew more and more intense. And in such a situation, when the enemy appears, you kill him. It's him or me.
In Berlin itself, every house will become a fortress and every cellar a bunker. To advance a single yard, the Soviet forces have to unleash massive firepower. This battle will engulf thousands of civilians who are trapped in the doomed city.
When the bombs landed, the ground rocked, and you were always afraid, if the house collapses, that will be the end. They won't be able to get us out.
As the heart of Nazi Germany is destroyed, reconnaissance aircraft patrol the skies above. Day after day, they chart the relentless progress of the Soviet army. Now, for the first time, these forgotten photographs have been combined with 3D computer graphics to provide a bird's-eye view of the battle unfolding below. This is the lost evidence of the Battle of Berlin. April 16, 1945. In the dead of night, squads of Soviet soldiers race to take up assault positions for the ultimate battle of World War II in Europe. With them, they carry red banners to inspire the men in the front-line trenches. Tank crews prepare their machines to join in the advance, and gunners stockpile 7 million shells ready for the opening barrage. The seconds are counting down to the Battle of Berlin.
The Berlin operation was something special. Everybody felt it was something special, that it was the end of the war. The soldiers' morale was sky high. In spite of all the losses we had had, everyone tried with all their might to get to Berlin and put an end to the war.
In the east, the Red Army has smashed through the German line in Russia and driven clear across Poland to the river Neisse and the river Oder. In the west, the Allied forces led by General Eisenhower have crossed the Rhine, and leading American units have reached the river Elbe, barely 50 miles from Berlin. The honor of taking the city could go to either side. But at the Yalta Conference in February, it had been decided that Berlin would fall in the Soviet zone of occupation. Now Stalin makes doubly sure that the prize will be his.
Stalin is absolutely convinced that he must control Berlin, and that once he controls Berlin, he will be controlling the center of post-war Europe. Now, Stalin doesn't want anyone else to know he wants Berlin. So Stalin tells Eisenhower Berlin is of no importance, and Eisenhower believes him. Not only does Eisenhower believe that Stalin doesn't want Berlin, but Stalin convinced Eisenhower that Eisenhower doesn't want Berlin either.
While the Allies deal with the last pockets of resistance in the West and build up supplies for an advance into southern Germany, Stalin prepares for the decisive battle for Berlin. 2.5 million men, 6,500 armored vehicles, and 42,000 guns and mortars have been assembled facing Berlin's outer defenses along the Oder-Neisse River line. The Soviet Union's best battlefield commander, Marshal Georgy Zhukov, has been given command of the army group nearest Berlin, the 1st Belarusian Front. Opposing the Soviet forces are 700,000 German troops. Many of them are poorly trained recruits, and they are short of tanks and artillery. But German soldiers are still ready to fight to the death to defend their capital city. Allied aerial reconnaissance aircraft track the course of this vast battle. Now, combined with the latest 3D computer graphics, their forgotten photographs help us penetrate the fog of war. At exactly 3 a.m., the Battle of Berlin opens with a deafening barrage from 9,000 guns. Packed together almost wheel to wheel, the guns pound the German line along the left bank of the Oder. Trenches and gun positions are pulverized by the rain of shells and rockets.
I am not saying that we didn't have a certain amount of fear or some concerns. Of course we did, but we understood that we had to cross the river, occupy the strategic ground and use it as the jump-off point for the big attack.
The assault infantry jump from their trenches and storm the German line. On Zhukov's orders, 143 searchlights have been brought to the front. They are switched on to illuminate the ground for the attacking Soviet troops. But the plan goes disastrously wrong.
They switched on the searchlights 300 to 400 yards behind our line. But such a thick cloud of dust and smoke had risen into the air over the German positions that the beams just couldn't penetrate it.
Reflected off the wall of smoke, the searchlight beams blind the Red Army soldiers. Silhouetted against the light, they are sitting ducks for German gunners above them.
In front of us there were minefields. The enemy fire was murderously heavy and really accurate. The Germans had prepared their defenses very carefully. It is not surprising they managed to hold us off.
When dawn breaks, the German line is still holding.
The enemy was putting up fierce resistance, shelling and bombarding us with all kinds of weapons, small arms, artillery and mortars, and they were even dropping bombs from aircraft.
Zhukov's offensive is going nowhere, but 55 miles south, the second phase of Operation Berlin is launched. Along a 250-mile stretch of the River Nysa, Marshal Ivan Konyev's first Ukrainian front begins its own attack with another massive barrage. From 150 jump-off points, Konyev's infantry rushes across the river in anything that floats. In just 20 minutes, they carve out a bridgehead on the west bank, and engineers start to build bridges across the river. When the bridges are ready, Konyev's tanks storm across. In spite of savage German counterattacks, they manage to advance 8 miles. But to the north, Zhukov's attack is still bogged down. The main German defensive line blocking the road into Berlin runs along the crest of the Zeylau Heights, a steep 160-foot high ridge.
The Zeylau Heights was the main line of German defense, and it was a very strong position for the Germans. It was very steep, broken ground, covered with forests and crossed by ravines and rivers. And beyond each ravine, they had concealed a very heavily armed, fortified position.
Attack after attack on the heights is beaten back with heavy losses. At 3 p.m., Stalin tells Zhukov of Konyev's successful river crossing. Enraged by the failure of his own plan and the chance that Konyev will beat him to Berlin, Zhukov orders forward 2 tank armies to break the deadlock. But the result is chaos.